by myself tonight. Isn't that good?
Yeah.
It's only week 6, isn't
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, I get things really fast. Yeah.
it?
Okay. So let's get started. Any questions from previous weeks?
Last week you asked us to identify some intervals in our sheet music,
Yes.
which I attempted to do, and in some of the songs I looked at, there was some in And So It Goes. In fact, the first notes in So It Goes, I think, is a 1-3-5, and
Correct.
Daydream has got some 1-3-5s in it as well. I guess it doesn't matter if the intervals go over a B and a C or an E and an F, does it? They're just whole notes.
It makes a difference.
Because there's no sharps and flats between B and C and E and F.
It changes the interval, but let's not get into that right now.
All right.
So I had a couple of people ask me during the week if I could spend some time on major and minor. So I think there were a few who didn't quite get that. And particularly about being able to recognize it just from hearing the music. So we're going to start with that. So what's the major difference between major and minor that you're going to hear?
Major is bright and cheerful, and minor is dull and morbid and sad.
No.
The other way around.
No, neither. And we're going to see that with some of the songs. So typically major is a happier sound, but most of the songs that we sing are in a major key. I actually had difficulty finding enough minor songs to make this relevant, because I went through all the repertoire that I had from the 2 choruses, and I think there was one minor song, even though there are plenty of sad songs. So you can have a sad song in a major key. So what is it?
I didn't say that. Well, I didn't mean to say this. The meaning of the song is sad. It's the tone. The sound is a sad sound.
Kind of, yeah. So it's a sad sound typically, but yeah, this is okay. But that's not quite what I'm after. So what's the major difference technically, I guess, between major and minor? There's one note that gives it away very easily.
It's just that mine is a semitone down, you said it in different parts. I'm
Yeah.
not sure the whole song or just
one note. You're correct. One note in the key is a semitone down. Which note is that?
7.
Third. One in the middle. It's the chord.
It is the one in the middle. It's the 3rd. Yeah. So the 3rd of the key is going to be lower. So if the key is if that's a key, then is a major chord. Is a minor chord. So the middle note changes. The bottom note and the top note are exactly the same. So the 1st and the 5th are the same, but the 3rd is low. Let me sing that again. Major, minor.
So it's only down a semi.
It's only down a semitone, yeah. So it's not a massive difference, but it makes a big difference to the song. Okay, so let's start off with an easy one. And so what I'd like you to do is do this if you think it's major, and do this if you think it's minor. Okay? Actually, I'm going to mute everybody because we're getting a bit of background. So you can unmute yourselves whenever you need to talk, that's fine. All right, so here's the first one. Ba 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 Barbara Ann, ba 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 Barbara Ann, ba 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 Barbara Ann. Should all have it by now. Barbara Ann, take my hand, Barbara Ann. I can see 3 people with their fingers up. And you can't use your thumb, Paul. Get your act together. It's got to be a finger. Okay, so we've got a few people saying it's minor. and most saying it's major. So let's listen to the beginning again, the very beginning. Ba 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 bran, ba 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 bran, ba 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 bran. So that's a chord.
A major
Ba
chord.
ba ba. Yeah, it's a major chord. If it was minor, it would sound like this. Ba 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 bran, ba 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 bran, ba 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 bran. Ba 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 minor, ba 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 major. Okay, so this was a major one. All right, let's do another one. I came from the dream time, from the dusty red soil plains. I am the ancient heart, the keeper of the flame. I stood upon the rocky shore, I watched the tall ships come. For 40,000 years I've been the first Australian. Okay, so most are saying major. Got a couple of minors. I came. So what notes in the chord do you think those beginning notes are? I came.
It's the first and the third, isn't it?
No, not in this case, but commonly it is. But in this case, it's the third and the fifth. That's the third. I came. And the keys are D major. So, what's that, major or minor? Major. So this is major. So it's not a particularly happy sounding song, but it's in a major key. Let's try another one. When my computer stops thinking, here we go. Skeeters are a humming on the honeysuckle vine. Sleep, Kentucky babe. Sandman is a coming to this little child of mine. Sleep, Kentucky babe. Silvery moon is shining in the heavens up above. Bobolink is pining for his little lady love. I'm going to keep singing until someone gets it right. It is in a major key. I picked this one specially because it's a lullaby. It's soft. It's kind of sad-ish, but it's in a major key.
Obviously, you covered, Peter, because you said there was only one song that was minor. So statistically speaking, they're all going to be major.
I did find a few more, so just be careful. So this is major. So there's a bar, like about the third bar in. Sleep, Kentucky, babe. Sleep, Kentucky. Da da da. If it was minor, it would be da da. Sorry. Da 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 da. Major. So that one's a bit tricky. Let's do something else.
You're not taking it from the first few notes. You're taking it from somewhere in the music.
No, that was the beginning. Skeeters are a humming on. That's the beginning of the song. There's no intro on that one. Some of them I will ignore the intro. Intros in barbershop tend to change keys and use weird chords. And so sometimes the intro might throw you off. And so it might be useful to look at the beginning of where the real song begins sometimes if you're trying to work out major or minor. Okay, let's try this one. The minute you walked in the joint, wah, wah, I could see you were a man of distinction, a real big spender, good looking, so refined. I say, wouldn't you like to know what's going on in my mind? So let me get right to the point. Wah, wah. I don't pop my cork for every guy I meet. Hey, big spender. We better stop there before my voice gives up. So, it's minor. It's a happy song in a minor key. Da 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 da. If it was major, it'd be da 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 da. Hear the difference? It's not, okay, so this is kind of, all right, it's not easy to pick.
That's good to know.
Let's go with some easier ones then. That was my curveball, yeah, so I should have saved that for later. Okay, let's try this one. Alas, my love, you do me wrong to cast me off discourteously, and I have loved you oh so long, delighting in your company. Okay, so one other one other thing to know about minor keys, and that's probably what threw you off on this one, is that the seventh note is usually raised. Okay, so the seventh note will usually be sharper than you expect, a semitone higher than you expect. So when you hear la da 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 da, that's the seventh note. Da da. If it was normal, if it wasn't raised, it'd be da da. So wa da 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 da. If it was minor, it would sound like, sorry, if it was major, it would sound like this. Da da da. Oh, hang on. Da da da. No, I can't even sing it in major, man. It's meant to be in a minor key, that one. So the third is lowered, but there's a raised seventh throughout that one that kind of throws you out a bit. Let's try, hang on. What else have we got?
So that sound, that beginning of Green Sleeves, that introduction to Green Sleeves, that sound would indicate that it's a minor key.
Yes. So the minor sound is a sad sound, but it's very easy to get mixed up with the temperament of the song and the actual sound of the notes. You know, they're two different things, and it's very easy to mix the two up. So you have happy songs written in minor keys. You have lots of sad songs written in major keys. And so it's kind of difficult. So probably we need to go back a few steps then and talk a little bit more about triads or chords. So a basic chord is the first of the key. So if it's D major, the first note is D, the second note is F sharp, and the third note is A. So it's the first, the third, and the fifth. And that's in any key. The chord will be 1, 3, 5, the basic chord in that key. So you know how to tell what key a song is in by looking at the music, right? So we talked about the little shortcuts, looking at if it's in a flat key, you look at the second last flat, and that will give you the major. If it's in a sharp key, you go one semitone up from the last sharp, and that will give you the key. And so maybe an easier way right now to tell whether a song is in a major or minor key is work out what the key would be if it's in a major key. Okay, so let me share my screen and let's have a look at some stuff. Okay. Hang on a minute. All right, let me just blow this up a bit. Okay. Okay, so Kentucky Babe, seeing it's up there. So look at the key signature. So what's the rule with flat keys? How are we going to tell what the...
The second last flat is the key.
Correct. So the second last flat in this case is?
E flat.
B flat. So if it was in a major key, this song would have to be in B flat major. So let's look at the very first chord. What are the notes? I can see mouths moving, but I can't hear anything. Mr. Farley, you're muted.
The tenor line is a D,
Correct.
and the bass line is no, just the tenor line, and the lead line is an F.
Correct.
Bass is B flat.
The baritone is a B flat, and the bass is a B flat.
Correct. So we've got B flat, D, and F. So what would be the three notes in a B flat major chord? If we start on B flat, what's 1, 3, 5 in B flat major? So 1 is B flat, 2 is
D,
2 is C, 3 is D, 4 is E flat, 4 is E flat, and 5 is F. So you just go up through the alphabet. Okay, so B flat is 1, 3 is D, 5 is F. What chord do we have here? The first chord of the song? We have B flat twice, D and F. So we have a B flat major chord. So if you look at a key signature and it says B flat major, and then you look at the first chord in the song and it's a B flat major chord, it's a reasonably safe assumption to say it is in a major key because it's in B flat major. Yeah? So what's the minor for the relative minor to B flat? So the same minor key that has that key signature. Do we remember how to work out what the minor key is?
Go down 3.
flat the third.
Go down 3. Okay, so what would be the relative minor for B flat?
B flat, D flat, and F.
No. So we go down 3 notes. So we start at B flat. What's down 1? A. So we go backwards. B flat, down 1 is A. Down 2 is
G.
G. So we go down a third from B flat. So G minor has the same key signature as B flat major. So that would be the other chord that you'd be looking for. So if you look at that key signature, 2 flats, you're not sure yet whether it's major or minor. You might see a G minor chord. And that would tell you that you're in the minor key rather than the major key. Does that make sense? I'm seeing a few... Yeah, okay, let's go over that again. Okay, so we get how to get the major key. Okay, I think, is everyone comfortable with that? The second last flat? Yep, got that? Okay, so, okay, let's just work on major keys for now, and then we'll come back and do some minors. Okay, so let's have a look at, okay, here's an easy one. Barbara Ann. So, what's the key signature?
Hang on.
C. Excuse me.
C major.
C major? How did you tell?
Because there's nothing there.
Ah, good. Okay. Excellent. Sometimes people look at the cut common and say, ah, C major. So I'm glad you didn't fall into that trap. What does cut common mean, by the way?
Oh,
4/4.
Kind of, yeah. For our purposes, it's 4/4. Technically, it means 2/2, but it really is the same thing. So you're right. Okay, so we're in 4/4. Okay, so C major is the key. So what chord would we be looking for? So forget about what the music says for now. Just what chord, if we think it might be in C major, what chord would we be looking for? What 3 notes?
C, D,
E, E,
Sorry, C.
C.
Sorry, C, F, G. C, E, G.
C, E, G is correct. So that's a C major chord. So what's the first note in the basses?
it's C.
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 It's a C. How do we know that? What's the rhyme for the bass clef? How do we tell what the notes are?
A, C, E, G.
All cows eat grass.
Correct. Yes. So that's a C. So in the baritones, what's the first note?
Oh, baritones.
C.
It's
Okay.
E, isn't it?
Eat.
E.
E.
It is an E. That's correct. So we're starting to become suspicious. We have a C followed by an E. What's the first note in the leads?
G.
G. What's a C major chord again?
C. E.
C.
G.
G.
C, E, G. So there's our C major chord. Ba 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 ran, ba 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 ran, ba ba ba. We don't even need to look any further. This piece is in C major. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, let's have a look at some others. Okay. Key signature. What does that key signature tell us? There's no easy way of working this one out. You just need to know it. What would it be if it was in a major
G
key?
flat. G flat major.
Really?
F major.
F major is correct. Yeah, so 1 flat, F major. You just need to know that one because there's no little trick to learn that one. Okay, so it's in F major. So what's an F major chord?
F. A. C.
Correct, FAC. So let's look at the lead part and the tenor part. Actually, let's just look at the tenor part. What are the first 3 notes?
A. C.
FAC.
FAC. In every. So what do we think? What key do we think this one might be in?
F.
F major.
Major.
So there's our F major chord, right? The very first 3 notes, FAC. Now, in fact, this song kind of isn't quite in F major, but let's just go with that for now. Okay, Silent Night. I won't confuse the issue. All right, so, oops, that's a bit too big. Okay, what key do we think this might be in?
C.
C major. Okay, no sharps or flats. Let's have a look at the first chord. What is it? Someone tell me the notes.
G. Lead on G.
Lead on G.
G. Bass is on G.
You sure?
Aces and berries on C.
Correct.
C. Yeah.
And the tenors?
Tenor.
E.
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 Yes. So what chord is it?
G.
C, E, G. What chord is that? C major.
D major.
Okay, so we look at that and we say, yep, here we go. The song's in C major. Just a little trick is that the first note, probably the best note to look at first is the bass note. Because the bass note, more often than not, will be singing the root of the chord, especially when it's the first note in the song or the first full bar in the song. The bass most commonly will sing the root note, and so that just helps to simplify your job if you get the root note 9 times out of 10 from the basses. Sandy?
Peter, can you just define the root note for me?
Sorry, root is 1. So if you're in C major, C is the root. Yeah, sorry. So there are whole piles of other names that people use for things. So for example, the 5th is sometimes called the dominant. We're not going to worry about all of that kind of stuff for now. Just know the numbers. That's probably the most important thing. Okay, let's find another one. This one. So, key signature.
C.
Is it?
No.
G.
So the time signature is C, which means what?
That's what I was looking.
4/4.
4/4, common time, correct. Okay, but the key signature is
D major.
it? Did you say that again?
D major.
D major, sorry, you're correct. I thought you said G. It is D major. How do we tell that it's D major? So we look at the last sharp. So what sharp is the last sharp?
It's a C, and you go
The C, and you go up 1. So it's D. Everyone understand how that works? So we've got a C sharp, there's the last sharp. Hang on, let me get a pointer or something. Okay, the last sharp is C sharp, go up 1. That just tells you it's in the key of D major if it was in the major key. We don't know that yet, but we're just assuming major to start with. Why would we assume major to start with? Because 95% of the songs we sing are in the major key anyway. So we're going to start there. All right, so if it was in D major, what might the first chord be? What's a D major chord? So 1, or the root, is?
D.
D.
D, yeah. 3 is?
F.
F.
F sharp.
F sharp, yes. And the 5th is?
A.
A.
Correct. So D, F sharp, A would be the chord we're looking for. So we don't have a full chord on the first note, but what are the first 2 notes in the bass and Barry?
D.
D.
A.
D and A. So that's looking pretty suspicious, isn't it? I'd be thinking D major coming up. And then what's the first note that the leads sing? F sharp.
That's it.
So there's our D major chord. And in fact, we've got a drone at the beginning of this one in the bass and Barry. Sorry, it's not labeled properly. Anyway, it doesn't matter. In the bottom line, we've got a drone with a D and an A. So it's got to be in D major. Okay, let's have a look at this one.
What did you mean by drone? Is that just the...
Let's go back. See how you got D and A and it just goes for bars and bars and bars and bars?
Yep.
That's a drone, yeah. When someone sings a note and doesn't get to change, that's what it's called. Okay, so this one's a little different. So what is the time signature?
G. Oh,
3/4.
G.
The
G
time
major.
signature is 3/4, yeah.
3/4.
Sorry, time.
I'm just trying to see who's listening. Okay. So what does 3/4 mean, by the way?
3.
3 crotchets in a bar.
Correct. Good. Okay, so we're in 3/4. What's the key signature tell us?
Sharp.
1 sharp.
So it's 1 sharp. And so how do we work out what the key is if it was a major?
On from that, it's G.
Correct. So we got an F sharp there. And so we go up 1. The key would be G if it is in G major. Now, if you've got, this is a little intro, a 1-bar intro here. So usually it's a good idea to ignore that if you're trying to work out the key. Sometimes you'll find there's a pickup note, like 1 or 2 notes before the main bar starts. Ignore those pickup notes because often they will be in the 5th of the key rather than in the main note of the key. So they might lead you astray. So let's look at the very first word that we sing, I've. So what notes do we have there?
G.
Oh,
B.
E.
D.
Yes.
Correct.
F.
G, B, D. What chord is that?
G, B, D.
It's a G major chord.
Correct. Yeah, so we have a G major chord. It matches with the key signature, so we're going to confidently say this song is in G major. So I should just mention, not always will the first chord of the song or the first chord of the main part of the song be exactly in the key, but is very, very common. And so sometimes you might find your first G major chord in the 2nd bar or something like that. But most of the time you're going to find it very, very early on. Okay, let's have a look here. So what does the key signature tell us?
A flat.
Flat.
Correct. So the second last flat, A flat, so A flat major. Okay, so we can look at the beginning, but typically I would start here. That's probably, in most cases, going to be more realistic. In this case, either or doesn't matter too much. So let's look here for starters. So what chord do we have here if we look at the good chord?
Good. A on the bass.
Yeah, A flat.
E.
E, E flat, yeah.
And then you've got a C.
C in the leads, yes. And the tenors?
G.
No.
B. No.
Tenor
F.
note.
E, F. Is it a G?
Keep going.
B.
B.
Keep going.
Oh, sorry. C.
No. There would be a C if it was in the bass clef, but we're in the treble clef here. So we've got a ledger line, right? So this, let's talk about that while we're here. Get a pointer. It doesn't want to give me a pointer for some reason. Okay, this will do.
Middle C.
It's an A.
It is an A. How do we work it out? So if it was on the top line, this line here, what note would it be?
G.
The line. So if it was actually sitting in the middle of the line,
F.
it would be F.
F.
So this
F.
note here, for example, the do in the lead part is an F, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we go up 1, we go up to the next space, which is, let me find one. And there isn't one just here comfortably. Doesn't matter. So if we went up 1 into the space, it would be
G.
G.
It's
And
just
then
a
we,
little hard. It's pretty small, Peter.
okay, let me blow it up for you.
It
Sorry.
wasn't quite small.
Better.
Ah, that's better.
Okay,
Yeah.
please tell me. I forget these things because it's big for me. Okay, so we go up 1, it's G. We go up another one onto the little line called a ledger line, and it becomes an
A.
A. So what,
Yeah.
what chord do we have? A, C, E, which is actually A flat, C, E flat, which is
I see.
A flat major.
A flat major. Do you know how we work out that it's A flat major?
Well, the root is the key, isn't it?
The root is the key. So A flat, number 1, 2 we miss, 3 is C, 4 we miss, 5 is E. A, B, C, D, E. Yeah.
Mhm.
So you'll also notice when we're looking at most of these first chords that because it's 4-part harmony, there will be 2 notes, two parts singing the same note. There's only three notes in this chord. There'll be 2 parts singing the same note, and usually the part that is doubled is the root note, as it is here. The A flat is being sung twice. I think all of the ones we've looked at so far, the root note has been doubled.
Mm.
Okay, so that's another indication. You see two parts singing the same note, that's likely to be the key note.
Mm.
Okay, let's have a look here. So this Stranger in Paradise has a big, long introduction. Just very quickly look through it. Hang on, let me blow it up for you. Very quickly have a look through it. Look at all the sharps and naturals through it. Is it going to be easy to work out what key that thing is in?
No.
So we don't even try and work out what the key is using the intro. Let's go back to down, whoops, come here. Let's go down here to where the song starts. For the proper song, Take My Hand. And then we'll think about working out what key it's in. So what's the key signature tell us?
Sharp.
That is
Sharp.
G.
G. It's in G.
G. Okay, so it's in G major. Okay, so let's look at the first chord.
So
A.
it's A,
A,
C.
B and C. No?
I don't see a B. A, this
B?
is
A. C. That's
C.
C.
Correct, yeah. A, C,
A.
That's A.
A again, and
B.
not B.
that's E.
E.
It's, the town
for
line is
E.
E. Town line is E.
It's an E, yeah, not a B.
Yeah.
E, yep.
No,
So
E.
we've got A, C, E there. We were expecting G. We got A, C, E. What chord is that, by the way?
A.
A major.
No?
There's a G,
Let's just call it an A. Let's call it an A chord. So A is the root, right? Don't worry about whether it's major or minor at this point. So that's not the chord we were expecting, right?
Okay.
If it was in G minor, what number would A be? Is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7?
it'd be 3.
G is 1.
It'd be 2.
It would be 2.
It would be
It'd
2.
be 2.
Is 2 a common chord in any key?
Not in a major key.
No.
Not in any key. You'll see it very occasionally, probably near the end of a phrase for certain reasons, but it's not a common chord you would see. So, okay, we're thinking it might be in G major. We see a chord that is actually number 2 in G, and we think maybe it's not G major after all. It must be something else. Okay, so this is an A chord. Is it in A? Is it A minor? What's the key signature for A minor?
4 flats.
4 flats is the key signature for A major, A flat major. The key signature for A minor, I'll just tell you because it's not worth working out at this point. It is no sharps or flats. So it's the relative minor for C. Okay, so if you want to work it out, I should have actually told you, if you want to work it out, you go up 3 to work out the major. So is this going to be in A minor?
Mm.
A minor has no sharps or flats. This has 1 sharp, not in A minor. So this one's a bit tricky. Yeah, I mean, you can see what key it's in because I wrote it up here. This one's going to make our life hard. Okay, so we're going to have to look further than just the first chord to work out what key this one's in. Okay, so what about hand? What chord is that?
It's the same.
It's the same chord, isn't it? They've just changed
Yeah.
a few notes around and swapped them between parts. Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, what about hand? Sorry, the bar 14 where the tenor sings hand. What chord have we got there?
E.
oh,
We've got a D.
E and F.
So if you see two notes together like that, E and F, what does that tell you straight away? As a maybe.
It's the seventh, probably.
Yeah, it's probably a seventh chord. If you've got two notes adjacent to each other, it's probably going to be a seventh chord. It isn't necessarily, there's lots of other options, but that's the common one. And because we love seventh chords and we sing them as much as we can, you're going to see a lot of them in barbershop. Okay, so this is going to be a seventh chord probably. So what are the four notes in this chord?
A, C, E, F. A, C, E, F.
Nearly.
The D for the bass.
D for, yeah. So this, let's not spend a whole lot of time on this one. This is not a common chord. This is C, D, C, D, E, F.
Okay.
Because this is four notes all adjacent to each other. So there's a special name for a chord like that. We call it weird. Yeah, it's a technical term. Yeah. Okay. So we're not going to worry too much about that one because that really doesn't fit any boxes that we want to tick at the moment. Okay, let's keep going. So maybe let's look at the chord on dice. So there's a long chord. So if we're wondering what are we going to do, this one's a bit more difficult. Pick the pillar chords. Yeah, you know what I mean by pillar chords? Are the longer notes. They're the ones that are more likely to give us the key. So let's look at dice. What have we got there?
Bass is G.
G.
And so the baritone G is B.
Yep.
G, B. Then you got D, G.
D.
G.
G.
So it's G, B, D.
Yep.
What chord's that?
G.
The G.
G major chord.
E major.
So we just said that this is not in G major, but just to make you confused, the arrangers chucked one in just to be weird. I probably wouldn't have even looked at this song, except it's the only minor song in the repertoire that we have. So this is a difficult song to sing. The reason it's difficult is because there are weird notes all over the place. I just went onto this one just to show you that sometimes it's not cut and dried. Sometimes it's kind of difficult to work out what key the piece is in. Let's not go any further with that because there's weird notes everywhere in this song. Let's have a look at another one. What haven't we looked at? Let's look at this one. Okay, so key signature. What key are we in?
A flat.
major.
A flat major, correct. So are we in A flat major or are we in the relative minor? So what would the relative minor be?
F.
Yes, correct. So it would be F minor. Okay, so let's look. We haven't got chords here to begin with. We've just got a melody line. Do you hear the people sing? So what's the first note in the first full bar? First note in the first full bar. What is it?
C flat.
C.
No,
A flat.
It's A.
it's A flat. So let me hang on. So this is only a part bar. What does 12/8 mean?
Well,
12 quavers. of,
Correct. 12 quavers to the bar. So the top number tells us how many. The bottom number tells us what type of beat we're looking at. So 12 quavers. So how many quavers here in these two notes? What sort of note is this one?
it's a,
Eva.
That's a quaver. Yeah. So there's 12 of those in a bar. What's this one?
it's
Crotchet.
crotchet.
Crotchet. So how many quavers are there in one crotchet?
2.
Two. Okay, so we've got 2 quavers here and 1 quaver there, so that's 3 quavers. So this is called a pickup measure, a pickup bar, or an anacrusis. They all mean the same thing. So that's not a full bar. And so here's the first note in the first full bar, and what is it?
The crotchet.
Crotchet.
It's a crotchet. Yeah, sorry, back to pitch now. So what note is it?
A
A flat.
flat.
A flat.
Okay. And so we were suspecting that it might be an A flat major. So here's an A flat in the very first note on the first bar. It's a good chance that it's going to be an A flat major. But if we want to confirm it, let's look at this chord here. So this is the first full bar of harmonies. So what chord do we have here? And just pretend it's not written underneath. Let's work it out.
Can't see where your cursor is, Peter.
Oh,
You're down
sorry.
below.
Beating. This is the beginning of bar 5.
Okay, on my screen,
Ah.
that's too low for me to see it.
How's that? Got it there now? Okay. So the very first note there on beat, what chord have we got? What are the notes?
C for
So
tenor.
let's always
That's
start,
A and
always start with the
A
bass note. So
flat.
what note?
C.
A flat, yes. This note,
A
E.
E flat. The lead note,
A. Flat.
A flat,
A flat.
correct. And the tenor note,
is A, C.
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 C for
Correct.
Charlie.
R, G, yeah.
Yeah, so we've
Oh,
got
the next one.
A flat, C, E flat, which
Mhm.
is what chord?
Major.
A flat major.
Yeah, it's it. Mhm.
Yeah. That's the key we suspected from the key signature. So it's pretty safe to say, yes, this song is in A flat major.
Major.
Yeah. Okay. Are you brain dead yet?
Yeah.
Before we got here.
So just go back to that last chord, Peter,
Yes.
for me, please.
Yep.
Yeah. So the root of the chord is number 1, as in 1, 3, 5, right?
Correct. Root equals 1.
So does 1 have to coincide with A, or is it just the first note?
Well, if you're in A flat major, 1 is going to be A flat. I'm not quite sure what you mean by the question.
Well, your notes in a chord can start with any note, really. It can be A through to G.
Yes.
So if you're the first note on the chord, that'd be the bass note, starts in C.
So that could
So-
happen.
Does the C become the first note?
No. So not always. So there are times when the basses will sing the C, which in this case is the third of the chord, right? But it's not common in barbershop.
So that's what I'm getting to. So the A is the first note of a chord, the C is the second.
The
D
C is the third.
third, sorry, and D
And
is D, A, C, D, E is the fifth. E is the fifth.
E is the fifth, correct. So you won't always be able to tell which is first, third, and fifth just by the way they've been written. But as you know, in barbershop, most commonly the bass will be on the root, the barry will be on the fifth, the tenor will be on the third, and the lead will also be on the root if it's just a standard chord. And what have we got here on this chord?
The tenor will be on the third above.
Yes, that's exactly what this chord is, isn't it? So bass is on the root, barry's on the fifth, lead is also on the root, but an octave higher, and the tenor is on the third, an octave and a third above the bass. So that's our most common barbershop chord. Yeah, but it's not always going to be that easy and that simple. Okay, so I think I've beaten you up pretty well tonight. Have you got any questions?
I'm sure there will be. I'm going to think about all this and get back to you.
Okay, you do that. I'm happy.
I'm missing a step.
Okay, that's fine. I'm happy for you to email me questions, by the way.
Okay.
And if it's something that a few people are having the same issue with, I'll cover it in the next week. If it's just you, I'll answer your email. Rob, go ahead.
My question would be, how do we know what? Yeah, you're saying we've got an A, a C, and a G. So what chord is that? Yeah, I'm completely lost in that area at this point.
Well, the easiest way to work it out is, so we've looked at the key signature and we've said it's likely to be an A flat major. So the chord that we suspect is going to be A flat, C, E flat. And so if you see here, the first chord on beat is A flat, E flat, A flat, C, there's the A major chord. That's the easy way to do it. So work out what you might expect to see and then see if that's what it is. And then rather than trying to work it out manually, and if you want to work it out manually, write A, B, C, D, E, F, G on a piece of paper. And then you can write what, if it's A flat major, 1 is going to be A, 2 is going to be B, and so on all the way up. So you can work it out that way. But the easy way around is work out what you expect to see, check to see if it is what you expect, and 90% of the time it will be. So then your job's done. You don't have to go any further and try and nut something out. So the chords, so that A, C, E, G, B, D, E, G, B, after you've kind of looked at chords for a bit and you get used to them, you just know those chord progressions. You know the third, 1 to 3 to 5. So you look at a chord here and it's A, E, C. But after a while, you get to know that the actual chord is A, C, E. Yeah, and there's no way of kind of getting around that other than just learning it. You just kind of get to know the patterns. So don't worry if that is not coming to you naturally now, because it won't until you've done it a bit and you get used to knowing what the actual order of the notes and the chords are. And it doesn't matter really what order the notes are in or what order you say them in, as long as you can tell what the chord is. That's the critical thing. Any other questions for tonight?
Yeah, don't want to eat a pattern, but why do we need to know what chord it is? Why can't we look at the music and just sing it?
Well, you can if you know what note to blow. But this class is about reading music. And so we need to know, we're going to read the music and we're going to say, okay, here's the music. I've never seen it before. What note am I going to blow? What key is the darn thing in? And so this is how to work it out. Now, often you'll already know because somebody told you or because you've got the learning track or whatever. But sometimes you're with some other people, nobody remembers what key the darn thing is in. So somebody has to look at the music and work it out. And so that's what this class is about. So knowing, so that you can confidently do that and say, yep, this is in A flat, we're going to blow an A flat for this song or whatever it happens to be in.
Very good.
Okay, let's call it quits tonight.
Thanks, Peter.
Any other questions before we go?
Yeah, I have one.
Go ahead.
In past music from way back, I've heard the term tonic. Is that the same as the root cause?
Yes, that's another word.
Tonic, okay.
So there, I'll just go through the words if you're interested. So 1 is the tonic, 2 is the supertonic, 3 is the mediant, 4 is the subdominant, 5 is the dominant, 6 is the submediant, 7 is the leading note. You don't need to know those terms, but if you hear them, you'll kind of know what they mean. The ones that you'll hear most commonly will be tonic and dominant, which is 1 and 5. They're the chords that we use all the time in barbershop. Sometimes you'll hear dominant 7th, or barbershop seventh, which is a dominant seventh chord. That just means a seventh chord built on the fifth. So if we're in A major, what's the fifth of A major?
E.
Correct. So E is the fifth, and so it will be an E chord, E, G, B, D. So that'll be the seventh built on the dominant. We probably don't need to go there for this kind of thing, but for those who are interested, that's what it means. So dominant and tonic are the two ones that you might hear your director talk about. The others are subdominant sometimes. The others you rarely hear. Even if you're in a professional orchestra, you probably rarely hear them. So, yeah. Okay, all done. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Peter.
Talk to you later.
Thank you, Peter.
Bye.
Thank you.
I just want to say thanks to Peter Garnett for blowing the pitch for us for all these years.
New appreciation.
and